So yeah, so again, we're here to talk about Cortex, a new application that we've been working on for a while. That's a decentralized note-taking and Web3 publishing tool. But there's a lot more to it than that. Um, my name is Leonard Kish, or Leo. I'm one of the co-founders of the project, along with Josh Robinson. A bit about my background: I started with actually in neuroscience and kind of got into distributed systems and learning how the brain works, and that kind of migrated into learning about how other kinds of distributed systems work. And so when I first heard about Bitcoin and started going to some meetups and thinking about how to distribute data in a way that's more private, more secure, I ran into Josh Robinson, our CTO and also co-founder, who was working on something very much like that. So, Josh, take it away.
Yeah, so that was quite a while ago. On that.
Yeah, it's
So
been incubating for a while, ready to
yeah,
hatch.
and it's cool to see the core technology that we originally worked on have making its way, progressing and being applied to real application and tying in with Butterfly and everything we're doing on that side too. So um, yeah, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Josh Robinson.
And
Yes,
Sergio, you're a community manager. Brief
Yeah.
introduction.
Okay.
businessman.
Okay. I'm a Spanish guy that has been in crypto for a while, and yeah, I met Josh around about February when in
Somewhere around
Butterfly,
then. Yep.
and yeah, I started working with him, and at the end we created Bproto to be able to leverage Butterfly tech while also being able to build different projects. And Cortex, I guess, is the best example of this. And as you saw yesterday, escrow is the other one for now.
Yeah, so maybe we should start with that. So, Cortex is built on the what we call the U-based distributed data architecture, which is a unique way of combining wallets with a data backend and a distributed data backend. But now we've merged that in a really powerful way, I think, with Butterfly, so that when we launch, we're actually going to launch as a Butterfly project, which is why this is part of Bproto, and use Butterfly domains as part of the identity, but also how you publish, how you navigate, how you work within the Cortex distributed note and publishing platform. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about Butterfly. And it's a domain name service, a distributed tripping over my tongue, distributed domain name service that's been live now for 6 months or so, that Josh architected. And so it's unique in a few ways in how it creates trees of NFTs that act as the domain. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that first, Josh.
Yeah. So yeah, as you mentioned, I was involved in both the U-base design and Butterfly, which is why they work well together. They kind of different sides and different angles of some of the similar problems. So different pieces of the puzzle, I think. But yeah, Butterfly, um, there's other naming systems out there on blockchain, and there's one everybody knows, that the legacy DNS system. Um, but as you mentioned, Butterfly has some unique things that um, make it better suited for certain scenarios, like with Cortex. Um, you know, some of the advantages is that um, you own, when you buy a domain on Butterfly, you own it. You own that name, and it's an NFT that you can keep forever. Um, and then along with that, you get the NFT tree, which is um, works again well with Cortex in the way um, domains are, have subdomains, and it can create a tree structure, and each of those subdomains are also NFTs, and so you can group those together, and
Can you talk? So if you get, say, Robinson .nft, and so once you have Robinson.nft, you own everything that will become a subdomain underneath that, like Josh.Robinson. So how will that work exactly?
Yeah, so it starts at the TLD level, which is what the Bfly tokens and everything are all about. And then from there, you can buy a specific domain, like you said, like Robinson.nft, where NFT is the top level domain. And then I would own Robinson, but I'd also own all the subdomains underneath that that I create. So yeah, I could create, Josh.Robinson, could create one for my daughters, like Andrea and Leah .Robinson, and then those are their own NFTs that I can give to them or other people. And then when you're looking through the tree structure, you're able to group those together. So say I wanted to allow access to my house, right, and use the NFTs as a key for our lock. I could group that to say any Robinson owner of a Robinson NFT could have access. So that'd mean I would have access and my daughters would have access.
Cool. So there's a lot of, and we're working on some of them where there's going to be a lot of ways that you can kind of create spaces around NFTs in that manner, I think, right? I mean, and with Cortex as well, that we'll get into. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, using the top level domain is, obviously the initial way to scope that, and that's how Cortex is going to be using it as well. So, one of the things that Bproto is doing is working with companies like Cortex and Escrow to create those spaces around it. So Cortex has the .crtx top level domain, and the Cortex token is based on that and able to create domains underneath of it.
And we're going to launch on Polygon. So I wonder if you could speak a little bit about what that means and what the kind of cross-chain features will eventually have. Is that going to be limiting in any way? What can you do and not do in that context?
Yeah, so Polygon's a layer 2 solution, which means it works really well with Ethereum. It's not trying to compete or replace it like a lot of the other chains are, which they all have their space that they fit in, and the certain problems that they solve. But for Cortex, Polygon works really well because you can easily bridge tokens back and forth, and we're able to with Butterfly point the CRTX top level domain so that it is resolved using Polygon, and then all the changes and updates can be done on a much faster, cheaper network than kind of the core system which runs on Ethereum.
And people always ask us about ENS, Ethereum Name Service, and how it's. Can you compare and contrast those a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, ENS is a good project. I think there's a lot of room in crypto for similar types of projects to all work together, and we do some things that make us fairly compatible with parts of ENS, and there might be some things we do with that later. But some of the main differences with Butterfly and ENS are one, that ownership of a domain for life, right? Once on Butterfly, once you create it, you own it, and it's just like any other NFT. And on ENS, you have to pay renewal fees, same as you do with the legacy DNS system. So you have to pay every year a yearly fee, which depending on gas prices and stuff, the amount you need to pay can vary quite a bit. The other thing is that although ENS does have NFTs for ownership currently, it wasn't originally built around NFTs, where Butterfly has used NFTs from the very beginning and been a core part of its infrastructure and structure. So one part of that is ENS and some of the others like Unstoppable, which also have NFTs for domains, use the domain or the NFT only to represent ownership.
Okay.
So, and that's, I think, a really big difference. So if you go on OpenSea, you can look at a ENS or Unstoppable Domain NFT, and it's just the name. No, like it has a picture, but it's just all the standard picture across the board. With Butterfly, you can actually set all of that metadata and use it as an NFT in a system like Cortex, or if you're making a game, you can use that also, which is why the NFT tree, where it can really come in handy. So instead of just owning subdomains, you can have a domain that kind of groups your NFTs together and issue all of your CryptoKitties type, or something like that.
So yeah, so if you're punks, or if you're a game developer, all of the different avatars and all the different combinations of gear that they might have, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it can be scoped to your game underneath that domain, but because it's in the same NFT contract and same space, then it can interact with other ones. So if you have a CryptoKitties or Crypto Puppies, and those would be completely separate games, but if they'll actually can live inside of the same contract if it was built on Butterfly, and you can exchange and have them interact in other ways.
What kind of interactions?
Well, for one, they can all be stored together without adding different contracts, but you could have a crossover, right? Like DC and Marvel, they're completely separate universes, but every once in a while you get some characters in other universes. So you can do that type of thing very easily because it's built on the same contract. Even though they're name-spaced, you could have. I don't know if you'd want to breed kitties and puppies.
Really. People are breeding a lot of them.
Those two games don't cross over very well, but maybe other ones.
I'm sure somebody's.
Yeah. So, for example, in a game, the skins, everyone knows Fortnite, I guess. The skins used in Fortnite or other games like CS:GO could be represented by those NFTs and then be traded.
Yep. Yeah. So you could have, a crossover between different games that allows you to use a dance from, Fortnite dance on a different character, and maybe you make your CryptoKitty dance like a Fortnite dance, right?
There you go.
Things like that.
All right, so that's maybe a good place to segue then into the Cortex demo, and I'll see if I can share my screen, because then we'll get into kind of how we think of Cortex. You think of a URL or a domain. A good, maybe not perfect analogy is that to the left side of the slash in the URL, what comes after the .com is more of like the file structure that Cortex contains and that you can manage with Cortex once you've established a domain within Butterfly. That's also then decentralized and has human readable names and can have your notes and your pages and even your NFTs stored in a location in that kind of a tree context at an even deeper layer. Right. I'll go to share.
Yeah, I think we were also going to cover how blockchain links worked.
I think we can get into that in the demo.
Okay.
because we'll show some.
Cool.
Yeah, so you're seeing that. So this is the kind of the top level file. It's almost like your desktop within Cortex. So these are existing trees of files, and this is all it is wiki based. And Josh, you can jump in on any of the architecture here. But maybe we should start with just starting a new tree, because this is where the NFT that you own with the Cortex domain will come into play, and maybe we can touch on that a little bit. Does that sound right, Josh?
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out on that screen and through this process is the way these clusters work, or they're kind of the root entry point to a group of notes. It's based on, as you see there, a key and a channel, and those will come from the NFTs in Butterfly once that feature is kind of fully complete. So in that previous page, it was kind of, boring and plain, or just had a little title. But that will look more like those will be NFT type cards where you can see your full thing. So yeah, it will integrate a lot more, and you can kind of think of those as your Butterfly NFTs and domains. But
so
you can tie directly to a key. Go ahead, sorry.
And so for now, this will just generate a random key and a random channel, but maybe you can talk a little bit about the keys and the channels.
Yeah, so what you're entering here is it's an entry point, basically. So it's like the root of a tree of notes or a notebook. And the key controls the ownership at that root level, and all the other keys underneath are generated from those two things. When you randomly generated one there, that was a private key, which makes all these writable. But you could also put a public key in there, which would make all of them read only. And it's based on the same math, basic math as the BIP32 or HD wallets, where it creates a tree structure out of those public key, private key pairs.
But in a real sense, then, when we create these notes and these structures and give them names, they're kind of synonymous with the keys themselves, because that's how the keys are derived.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different than a lot of other projects that you'd see maybe pointers between, NFTs and files and things like that.
Yeah, they're at the kind of lower level. They're all of these notes. Every note has a key and a channel, and they're all addressed by that. So that's the unique identifier for it and how it can be looked up. So it's you can kind of think of it, and it ties in with IPFS, which does the content addressable linking. So if the content changes, then the address changes, and the address always points to the same content. This uses key and channel as those unique identifiers, which allows that content to be changed. So then it can work in conjunction with something like IPFS to have a way to identify specific data that can change and who owns it.
And have versioning and the kind of common things and ways that we're used to working with data and files already.
Yep.
So I'll go in here to a note that I've already established, but you can see that it's marked down, so maybe similar to something like Notable or just some other kind of writer-oriented markdown apps that are out there. The kind of thing to notice here is that this home area is really the start of this tree. And when you create a new link, say, where are my created one here. This is not actually today, what's happening today. It's because it's a link I made a couple months ago. But if I go to what's happening today, it takes me to that note in that tree that's been established by the name that I gave it and the link that I created to it. It goes underneath this file structure. And so maybe you talk a little bit about the wiki aspects of this and some of the design choices there, Josh.
Yeah, so there's several note systems that have similar concepts of like wikis, where you don't need to go through a process of creating a file specifically. You link to it, and then you follow that link, and if it doesn't exist, it makes a new note. The exact format we use for the links might be refined a little bit in the future, but the general idea is there's two kind of ways to link to different notes in some of the formats you're using there. You can basically either do it from the current note that you're on, and so do a path from that one, or if you're several notes deep, you might do it on from the root. So
yeah, there's one that just is from. So this one here is from the current note, and this one here is.
I think we
actually they're both from the current note.
But
anyway,
yeah. So
we're at the top level, so they kind of look the same.
Yeah, so since you're already at the top level, there's no reason to link to something else. But that format also can include either that kind of lower level key and channel, so you can link across outside of this cluster if you want. And yeah, I don't remember.
I'm just going to put in the link. So our but there's a version of our website already that is
the butterfly
hosted in this decentralized architecture. And so we'll be using these links to connect with the current web, or the legacy web. So if you go to HTTP, and this isn't going to work because this is for me because I'm just in this area, but if you go to HTTP : type, you go to this link. I can probably even do that in another browser, but you'll see this in the distributed environment. And maybe you could talk a little bit, Josh, about what people are actually seeing when they go to this link.
Yeah, so that one, the bfly.link is a gateway. From the legacy DNS system. So we have bfly.link running, and it takes the crtx.app domain, which is a butterfly domain, and it pulls the site that's hosted on IPFS up and stores that there without needing to put any extension in your browser or install anything extra. And as we build things out for Cortex, there will be gateways specifically for Cortex as well. So it won't have to do something as long as that either.
So if this is my NFT someday, so say this is, and it won't be, but say it's leo.cortex. Within the Cortex application, I'll just be known as like @Leo. To the web, to the distributed butterfly web, this page will be known as leo.cortex. And to the broader web, it'll be leo.cortex.link.
Yeah.
And this then makes it really easy to publish. So we don't have it here now, but eventually this will just be we'll have a publish or a commit. It's very much like Git-like features. where you'll actually be committing and signing the things that you publish. And so eventually there will be a commit and a publish button that if this is a public note, meaning that it's on a public channel, it'll be posted to these areas, these pages. And so, yeah, back to your initial question, Sergio, let's talk a little bit about the public and private linking, or the links. So this then does become, because this is a public key, as we see back when we created the note, this is a public key, and you could actually send tokens or assets to the key behind this. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, Josh.
Basically, what you just said. So where there's integration,
how will that be resolved, though? I guess maybe is what people might wonder.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways. When it's published, we can have links on the sites as they're published that include the address of that specific note. So every single note has its own public key or key pair, so public-private key. So, and that uses the standard encryption that Bitcoin and Ethereum and Doge and everything else use. So that same address can be used on all those different systems. The same key pair. You can generate different addresses for the different coins, but that could be linked on the page when you go to it in the browser. You can see it. The other ways we have integrations. Some of the way it's integrated, I don't want to talk about yet. So some surprise features. But
yeah, probably giving away too much already.
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much, but we will have some ways to integrate with wallets and things also. So go to leo.crtx, something in different wallets, and send tokens and things between.
So the thing that people always ask about this, so I think hopefully people can start to see that each of these is addressed. It can hold different things, way down to, even a low level. Like if I go to this link, what's happening today? This is another key. So the keys now don't live in just, a big bucket in your wallet. In a lot of ways, they become part of a structure that I think, we don't even know what the consequences of that, but we do know that it's going to make current assets a lot easier to manage, I think, and easier to use on an ongoing basis, especially when we go to mobile. But people always ask, so because the space, you can put assets here, how can we kind of build an environment around these assets, and what will they look like? Like maybe in VR, but even simply within Cortex here today.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the initial focus is on building a simple app that seems deceptively simple, right? So we want to make something that's an easy to use note-taking app from the beginning, and then the crypto pieces can add all sorts of different dimensions to it, but we don't want those to necessarily be the focus from the beginning, right? So longer term, we definitely will have do some cool things where a note can hold different NFTs. So if they're art-based NFTs, you can create kind of maybe even a tour gallery where you have different kind of rooms as your different notes that kind of connect together, and you go through and you can see in VR, like you said, the different notes or different NFT pictures hanging on the wall, along with descriptions and stuff that you've added, why that NFT is important to you, in your node. There's all sorts of really cool things that can be enabled by the technology. And the approach overall though is to make it so initially that even though the technology lets us do all those cool things, initially it kind of fades away, right? So
Right.
we're going to be using NFTs in that cluster area and for creating all those links. But just like you don't want to look at an IP address when you're in your browser, even though you can link to different notes across clusters and everything using the keys and the channels, we're simplifying that down to using Butterfly to have a simple name that creates that link, and do that with every aspect. So it's simple and seamless, and then we can start to leverage the cool power of crypto and the decentralized web.
One thing,
More and more.
one thing many people might be wondering, because at first, also when I was learning about Cortex and everything, I didn't know what you referred, like what you meant with keys. So if you want to explain to everyone what that means.
Yeah. So, if you're not coming from crypto, it can be very confusing. So there's crypto and like cryptocurrencies and a lot of the decentralized systems are all based on public key, private key pairs. So just like the name suggests, the private key you keep private, and you can use it to sign messages. And the public key is when you share with other people. And in cryptocurrencies, they can use that to send tokens to you, and only people with a private key can spend or send those to other people once it's received. In the notes in Cortex, that acts as kind of a read-only or a read-write permission. So if you have the private keys, then you're able to create the notes and write to that cluster. And if you have the public key, you're only able to read those. And then we have some additional permissions that you can set on the notes that allow you to encrypt them different ways. So there's additional levels of security besides just the read and write.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about kind of the next layer of this, which will be more the community features and the collaboration features that is kind of after version 1, but that are pretty well architected at this point. But we really see this as more of a kind of the best of both worlds, and bringing public and private together and being able to collaborate in public and private spaces in new ways. I don't know if you want to talk about a little bit about the public-private aspects of the links, or what we're calling the we could call them key links, but we're calling them blockchain links because they are links between keys. So this is from this top level key to key further down the key tree, or the address tree, if you want to think about it that way. Maybe talk a little bit about the public-private aspects, which I know you're excited about, Josh.
Yeah, so some of it's based on the root. You can have a private cluster for your private notes, and that's part of where the channel piece comes in. So when you generated it, it was a random 32 byte hash, and 32 byte hash can be derived from a lot of different ways, right? You just generated a random one when you created your new cluster, which makes it private just from the fact alone that in order to find those notes, someone would have to have that channel as well as the public key. So it's a combination of those two that makes it so that even if it was out there, it can't be found. And then the encryption, you can choose to encrypt those based on that channel as well as the key, which prevents people who don't know the channel from reading it, right? So if you have a private note, the private channel is like a super secret password. And then some of the public ones, which you link to by your butterfly name, the channel is actually uses the same hashing algorithm that is used in ENS and other things. The name hashing, it's called, so it's derived from the domain name itself, which is why that cluster can be linked to a butterfly NFT directly. So it has the channel is derived from that that domain, and then the owner is how you get that public key. So a single
Right.
NFT has all the information you need for to access a cluster. Yeah, there's also some other cool ways to generate those channels. So you can have use what we previously called HD entanglement with some of the U-base aspects, which allow two people to use some standard. If you're no crypto at all, it would be it's called a Diffie-Hellman thing to generate a shared secret. But you use those to take basically two people, and they can create a shared secret without sending any information between each other besides the public keys, and kind of create a space for their shared notes between the two of them, which has some really cool things that you can do with it.
And then another part of this is, if once you create one of these links to an outside person, a note becomes then sort of a comment on whatever they've created. And there will be cool ways to filter then the kinds of comments that you want to see based on the addresses that you know or the owners that you know. So it kind of becomes, if you look at one of the bigger problems, I think, in social media today, is it's still really hard to filter what you see and what you don't see, and while still remaining open and controlled at a more granular layer. So I think I'm really excited about that, because it just makes your social experience open to everybody, but what you see is really filterable by you, the person who really owns your whole social environment now.
Yeah, and on that topic, we specifically call that part of the link, like the day and all that. That's referred to in everything as the topic. So
right.
It's not just a path or something like that. And the reason is that, like you said, anybody else can make a new note on that same topic. So there might be an official one, like a leo.crtx, and you have a topic talking about what you think tokens you think are gems, and so you have a .gems note. So that link is a combination of your key and that topic, and I would be able to write my comments on there too. So it would, by combining my key with that same topic, you could see what I'm looking at, and if you combine it with that same channel, then you're only changing the key. You're saying who's talking on that domain, who owns it, so who's saying the official word and who's saying other things around it, if that makes sense. So I can comment on it, and you could also go to my channel to see officially what I'm saying on the topic. And by doing that, you can have a kind of network of trust too. So you can add people who are people you trust, and maybe you trust people that they trust. And so when you're looking at any note or any topic, or you're writing about something new, say I just start a new one, and I do /gems, and then I see that I trust Sergio, and I trust Leo, and I see what you've written on those topics. So any topic I create, I can see automatically from my network who else has written about similar things and what they say about it. And I can comment on theirs. I can create my own note, and then they can also comment on mine. So it really is about, especially on the public side. So there are the two sides where you keep your private notes, but on the public side, you can kind of put your knowledge out there and see what other people that you trust are saying about things, and kind of get the knowledge of the group.
Yeah, and I think we haven't even gotten into a lot of the other community features that we're going to have, but I think by this time people get the hopefully understand that this really goes really deep in terms of the architecture for creating a whole public-private space. So while it's a note-taking app and a publishing app for a decentralized space, that just opens up a lot of doors for the kinds of things that people are going to be able to do and the ways that they're going to be able to collaborate in the very near future. If you have any questions, Sergio, but I think...
the thing with that was quite impressive to me is that all of this was achieved avoiding transactions. It's very curious how something that has crypto built in its core has achieved to avoid these transactions. For example, if on Butterfly, even if you want to upload something to a domain, you have to pay an IPFS transaction. If you want to upload the IPFS to a domain, you have to pay an Ethereum transaction, and all those type of things. To me, it was really impressive how that was achieved. And I also wanted to ask you guys, how will the publishing feature work? Are you going to dedicate a special UI for it, a type of marketplace for all these things that will be published? What's your idea?
So you will be able to publish with the first version of this just to your domain. So here I could publish this page, or if I could actually created a gems page underneath here, there will be a publish button that just says publish, and it will actually publish to that domain and that link that'll be accessible. And that'll be IPFS on the back end as a default, but eventually, and that's a decentralized file store, but we will be adding other places that you can store. Like right now, this is stored locally, and we'll have local options, and eventually I'm sure AWS options and other kinds of options as they become available.
Yeah, that's what that whole right area of that toolbar on the top is for. That's why it's blank right now. So, and talking about the fees, there are going to be some, because there are some places you have to interact with the chains. So, on like you said, on Butterfly, creating a domain, registering a domain, all that does take some fees because you're interacting with the blockchain. But we do keep it minimal on Cortex. So it's going to, first of all, we're going to be doing a lot of that on Polygon, which has much lower fees. And then when you actually are publishing the notes, it's based around the signing of the information in the notes at those different keys, and these commits that can be shared in any number of different ways, as long as you get the different commits that someone's made, no matter what order you get them, or if you only have partial information. It's an eventual consistency model. So there will be some options to publish on chain, where you can batch a whole bunch up into a single transaction, a whole bunch of commits from a bunch of different people. And then, so you're paying one transaction fee on a very inexpensive network. Or it could even be if, things went sideways and the only way to communicate was or transfer things was directly, or you want something very, very secure, like the 2-person kind of entanglement approach. We could send those different commits back and forth to each other directly, even over different channels. So it doesn't really matter what channel you exchange the commits at. Whenever you get them, you can basically rearrange them and get the same information. Yeah, that was maybe too deep into it, I guess, but
no, that was
cool. I think it's neat too. I like how we accomplished it.
Yeah, Cortex goes deep. Any other questions or anything from the field, Sergio?
I can check the chat. Oh, okay. I didn't expect questions. Okay, so can you list 1 or 2 killer features of this project that makes it ahead of its competitors? And what is the competitive advantage your project has that you feel most confident about?
Well, first, I think I don't know that there's another application out there that's going to allow you to publish quickly and then manage an environment in a completely decentralized fashion as quickly and easily with the domain names and with the depth which the data and the keying goes. And certainly, I don't know of anything else where each page is actually a key and the new ways that you can interact with it to create these kind of new spaces. And I think we've talked a lot about them, like the public-private linking, the public-private spaces, and the social features of this. And even beyond all that, what we've talked about, there's even a lot more in terms of how we're going to allow people to collaborate. What's your favorite, Josh, about this?
Well, I mean, it all depends on how you're looking at it, right? So, if you're looking at it as a note-taking app, which is kind of the initial focus, it doesn't really have any killer features, and that's the point. It's all what's underneath and hidden. But then that crypto base really allows for those killer features to come out, right? So, versioning is really cool. Being able to have it in sync across devices using your same keys. And the fact that you can store tokens on each note makes it really powerful too. So more than just storing funds, right? And NFTs, those are some cool things you can do, but even it even enables more uses for some of the smart contract things, like just some of the brainstorming we've done before. You can have some sort of different types of sentiment tokens, right? So if you want to do a like button on this type of thing, instead of having a centralized system that keeps track of that, you would have tokens, maybe an ERC20 token that is a like that you send to a note, and that's how you like it. And then there's all sorts of different things that can be built around that, right? Monetizing based on something other than advertising, right? Which is one of the major downfalls of the current
web 1 and 2.
There's like everything's based on advertising.
Yeah.
So, being able to see that, and one I'm really excited about is the whole collaboration piece. I think is, to me, the most exciting. So when I go to research a topic, I just create a note on it, start to put my information in, and be able to see what other people who I trust are saying about it, right? So I can build out that network of information that I know is useful.
Yeah, for research, I think this is gonna be amazing, and just for the other big problem I think with the Web 2 is just you don't always know what's real and what's trusted, and so the layer of collaboration that you can get with trusted people, maybe anonymous people or pseudonymous people, but still people that you trust. And now, as we're seeing with so many NFTs and crypto punks and different avatars. Like, we're moving to an area where people really aren't known by who they really are, but really by what they do and the environment that they've kind of created online. And I think this is a really great way to build that kind of environment, because you may not know who the owner of, you know, Sergio.crtx is, but it may not be you, Sergio. Maybe you'll
Yeah,
sell
I
it
was going to
someday
say
or
that
something.
it might be known.
It might be known. We'll say Alice at .crtx. You might not know who Alice is, or if she's even a she or anything, but once she builds that kind of Alice empire, you'll know everything that's published and created underneath that, and you'll be able to see what people think and link about it in a pretty cool way.
You know people by what they do, not just some other, like, who they are in real life. Right? It's a meritocracy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check another question. Do you want?
Sure.
Okay, so after all types of sales are done, what kind of launch will the token have on a DEX, I guess? Fair launch? Well, we're not going to give details on that yet, I guess.
Yeah, no details on that. We have our favorites, but we're not going to mention them here. But we'll certainly release that info as soon as we can.
What is the plan for protocol adoption in the browser? What does it take for a butterfly address to be readable by my web browser? That's from Nate.
If it's the Nate we know.
Yeah, it is
a different Nate.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about it a little bit, but that you can see a lot of things that are published on Butterfly already through this bfly.link. What we have to do to actually put that into play, though, will that be automated when somebody creates a CRTX or a Butterfly domain?
Yeah. So we're going to take the same thing that we do with Butterfly, like the gateway and the protocol handler, and make specific ones for CRTX. So we'll have a CRTX.link gateway that basically chops off the butterfly parts. It's kind of a shortcut. And that'll
So
be
anything you publish. So if I do Leo, it'll be just so it might just be
what you have
Leo
down below there.
.crtx.link.
Yeah. And then slash.
And that'll be readable by current browsers, whereas within Cortex, I'll just be Leo. And Cortex we do think of Cortex as kind of a browser, because and probably we will have a bar up there. But then there's also within kind of the Butterfly space. I don't know. Are you going to continue using this, do you think? Or is it?
Yeah, so that's the other way, the protocol handler. So there's the gateway, and then there's a protocol handler where you have that at the bottom there, I think, where it's web plus for any Butterfly one. Could do, you could do web plus bfly : leo.crtx. That would load it as well if you have if you've gone to the Butterfly protocol, if you have that handler installed.
So you have to go and install a handler in Chrome or whatever.
Yep. And the nice thing
is it in all browsers or just Chrome, or
so
people find that?
It's a standard, and you can install it by right now it's on cocoon.bproto.io. We'll have some better things up for installing that. Because later on I realized that butterflies don't even technically have cocoons. They're called a chrysalis. So cocoon doesn't even really apply. That's for moths. But
Oh, really?
yeah,
I'll
I
learn something
learned that
new.
later. English. Man, it's weird. But yeah, once you install the protocol handler for Bfly, you can just do, instead of the HTTP or HTTPS, you do web plus bfly : / and then you do leo.crtx. We'll add another one too that is web plus crtx : / and then you can just do Leo. So there's
Okay.
there's kind of I know it seems like there's kind of a lot of different ways you can access it. As things progress, one might end up being more popular than others, and so just kind of adjust based on that. But we want to give people options and ways to access it. And with any Bfly, there's the gateways and the protocol handler, and we'll have those same things as shortcuts with CRTX.
Bit of real life A/B testing.
Yep, exactly.
On what works for what people prefer.
Yep.
Also, one thing, maybe people that are watching this don't know it, but you have to integrate the extension to be able to put web plus butterfly, right?
It's not actually an extension.
Yeah, an extension-less extension, like you used to say.
Yeah, it's an extensionless extension. So that's the cool thing. You don't have to install anything on your browser. But yeah, you can go to a URL. Was Cocoon. We'll improve that. We'll have one on CRTX too. But it'll just pop up and ask you if you want to install it. You accept it, and we have a video on how to do that as well on Bproto's YouTube. So you don't have to install. It's a protocol handler, so it's a standard. And like you were asking before, it is supported in Chrome. I think it's in definitely in Brave and Edge and Firefox. It is not in Safari, I don't think.
And Opera?
Maybe. I don't know for sure on Opera. But the cool thing about using the protocol handler is that it's system-wide. So it registers it at your OS level and so if you set it up in Chrome or Brave, if you go to Safari and you see a link that's web plus CRTX, you can click on it and it'll open it up in Brave. So it registers that browser as the handler for that at the OS level. So
cool.
Yeah, it does. Even if you're on other things, the protocol handler is a really nice way to do it.
Okay.
Anything else, Sergio?
I'll go for another one. Okay, this is an easy question. Cortex project was created due to the rise of NFTs trend?
No.
And what will happen if the market changes radically to another trend that is not NFTs? And will you adapt, or will Cortex keep developing everything related to NFTs?
Cortex was really founded and built so that individuals could own their own data. And the lawyers will get upset about using the word own, but really for individuals to control their data without any dependencies on third parties. Because I think Josh and I both saw that as a very difficult thing with how a lot of systems are architected, that we all want to be human-centered, individual-centered, that give people control over what they have and what they create. And I think that's a big frustration with the web today, is that, when you sign on to a platform, your stuff really isn't yours. And so the heart of Cortex is solving that problem first. And the fact that you can own NFTs in this same environment, and that you can have NFT domains kind of came later, but we were working with NFTs back in, or the idea of NFTs back in like 2018. very early on. So it's not, for us, it's not really a new phenomenon. The last 6 months have been, the kind of the world waking up to what you can do with NFTs, but it's not a
I don't think
not
that,
a new idea.
yeah,
But even
I
like CryptoKitties and CryptoPunks
the-
are from 2017, 2016.
yeah, that's the thing. I don't think people have realized yet that NFTs is more than a digital art or something that can be used to represent game features. They are actually a quite useful technology, and that, as you said, for example, yeah, Unstoppable uses NFTs to demonstrate ownership, and those are ways that NFTs can be used and maybe even be applied in the future to, who knows, the voting system, to so that you are able to demonstrate that you are the one voting in some random election. And NFTs can actually have many different uses that are not the ones traded in OpenSea, the CryptoPunks and others that, okay, they're nice, they are rare, and that's why they cost a lot, but they actually are not useful.
Yeah. And the main technology underneath Cortex is the Ubase data layer. You had a separate name for it, right? Like Ubase distributed data protocol. Yeah, he came up with a cool new name for it. But that was some of the original technology that Ubase was working on for healthcare and things like that, well before NFTs were ever a thing, even before CryptoKitties. And even this version you see of Cortex here doesn't actually have the NFT piece that comes from Butterfly built in. So besides being able to having a wallet address and being able to hold NFTs, Cortex doesn't rely on them that way.
No. NFTs are just another thing that Cortex can integrate.
But it's
just one thing.
Yeah, since it's a wallet, anything new that comes along that uses crypto wallets, Cortex can add fairly easily if it makes sense. Right.
Yeah, but I think it will. Right now, I think people are running into difficulties in how they're managing and using their NFTs in different environments, but we are quickly entering a place, I think, where it'll become so inexpensive to create NFTs or any kind of digital proof that almost everything that you do online will have a digital proof of some sort, and there's going to be a big need to be able to manage and put those proofs into an architecture. And we're probably really well suited to be part of that architecture, the way that this is constructed.
Yeah, I also have I want to bring this in. This yacht trend, you remember when I talked to you about this?
Yeah.
How is Cortex better? I mean, obviously it's much better because yachts is basically a link tree in blockchain with emojis. It doesn't do much. They're quite limited. But how?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what they seem to have a lot. I'm not going to disparage them. I think what they're doing is kind of cool.
For you.
But it seems like they have some things that they haven't quite released yet in terms of what they're going to do. They've done a great job of marketing.
Yeah.
A phenomenal job of marketing. But it seems like they have some cool things in the works. I'm interested to see what they're going to do. And I think the point is you can, with Butterfly and Cortex, very soon you'll be able to create Yacht-like domains with emojis. You can speak more to the Butterfly aspects of that, but this will give and maybe there will even be ways we can integrate with Yacht But this gives a whole new architecture that can kind of live underneath that.
And Butterfly supports emojis. So
true.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily, when you can start registering Cortex domains, you'd be able to register one that's all emojis. And inside the Cortex app, and anywhere, you would just use the emojis, and you wouldn't need the .crtx. So yeah, but like Leonard was saying, there's, we're in an exciting space with crypto, and there's a lot of different people doing different things, and going at things at different angles that they may be considered competition, but it's a very innovative area right now, right? So there's space for everybody to grow, and where possible, we want to integrate and work with these things. Someone's doing something cool, why not work with them and leverage it? There's room for everybody here. It's big.
Yeah, and I think you can also you can use characters, you can use emojis. There are some downfalls to using emojis. I think they'll probably be great for mobile, but they are a bit cumbersome, like on desktop. If you want to, how are you gonna? And all those, those problems will be solved. But it is something to be aware of, that maybe there's some limitations there too.
Yeah, that is something we notice on the Butterfly side, is that when we were creating it, we're like, oh, this is cool, we can do emojis. And then when we started doing the auctions and stuff for some of the initial top level domains, the emoji ones were the least popular. Right?
Yeah, that's the thing, that most people, when looking things up in internet, they're actually in their computer. Especially in crypto, where, at least me, I'm always with my computer next to me, and looking for something that is an emoji, it's quite uncomfortable. I mean, you could copy paste from Telegram chat and then paste them onto the URL of some website, but it's really, really uncomfortable. So I mean, yeah, it can be fixed, especially that Yat isn't integrated in the Opera browser, so they'll probably have something over there that allows them to search it easily. But for now, I see it as a bit of a limitation, personally.
Yeah, I think we've always been focused on keeping things as open as possible. We've always tried to be as protocol or blockchain agnostic as much as possible, and that's why as you mentioned, Sergio, you don't see a lot of like on-chain activity here, because we want things to be open so that you can work across chains. And we're working on some things with Earth 64 that are still in development, but we're excited about in terms of making a really completely cross-chain environment with inexpensive NFTs. So there'll be more to come on that too. But I think at the core of who we are is really wanting things to be as open and usable across environments as much as possible. Any more pressing questions, or think we should wrap up?
Well, Nate is over there. You should check the chat, seriously. How can it be used in conjunction with Gnosis?
Gnosis?
With the Gnosis wallets?
I don't know.
If they want us to have multi-sig capability, I don't know. We would love to hear ideas.
Yeah,
That's my tears there.
I personally don't know what that means. Okay, have you considered ways to use it with Open Zeppelin Defender?
No.
Open Civilian Defender?
Zeppelin. Like, I guess
Zeppelin.
the smart contracts.
Yeah, we'll have to. Yeah.
What's Open Zeppelin Defender?
I'm not sure what Defender is. If that's something new that it might be the audit thing that they're doing. I don't know.
But our contracts will be based on Open Zeppelin.
Yeah,
process automation. He said.
Is this Nate asking questions?
Yeah.
Tell him it's right now. It's a
It
note
sounds like
taking
a
app.
Nate question. Yeah. I think that we get this question asked a lot, though. I think you could, but the basic structure of this, it is a file store, a file structure, and with the eventually when we get to like the community version and the versioning there, there'll be some cool ways that you can say take a process and organize it in this file structure and be able to share that and use it and authorize it in new ways. But that's the kind of thing that maybe Bproto will help work on those kinds of use cases and implement those kinds of use cases as they come up. But yeah, this is a note-taking app now, but like any kind of note-taking app or publishing tool, it can be used for just about anything.
And I mean, really, Cortex is a combination of the lower level technologies like the U-based distributed data protocol and Butterfly protocol, and showing what kind of, if you focus on a specific thing, what kind of cool thing, something cool you can make with it. That makes sense. I had a good sentence in my head, but it didn't come out right.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah. So it's all about the combination of those underlying technologies and seeing if you focus on a specific problem, what kind of cool thing can you create using these technologies that's better than what's out there, right? So Cortex, especially when we start adding in some of the additional features, I think will be a better note-taking, knowledge-sharing application experience. And those underlying technologies can be used for all sorts of other things. Probably wouldn't be in the same, apply to Cortex specifically, but there might be other projects, right? And like Leonard was saying, Bproto is all about helping those different projects build on top of Butterfly, and we can start integrating some of the U-based data protocol, and there's all sorts of ideas that we can't even think about yet, haven't even thought about yet that could be created on those. That can be kind of the challenge sometimes. It's too infinite what you can do. It's like what do you do with the internet? You built on the internet? Anything?
We're looking for you to develop those, Nate. Yeah. To work.
Let's see what he's saying.
That's okay. We don't need to have an ongoing conversation with Nate.
He's putting just do it in the chat.
That's copyrighted. We can't say that.
All right. Anybody besides Nate have a question? We can wrap up.
Probably. Yeah, for now, no one's... Okay, here there was a good question. How will you handle your platform if something unexpected happens in the future, such as a hack that leaves your platform with some of your users' personal information? I mean, crypto, it's really difficult to hack. It was really difficult to hack Butterfly. Imagine Cortex.
I think if you look at this, people that are in security are very excited about what we're doing because at a very root level, every file has its own security built in at the root level because everything's keyed and can be encrypted. So a lot of ransomware attacks and things like that, if you're going to build on the U-based distributed data protocol, it'd be very, very difficult. Now, like crypto and not having a bank, same thing as with not having a data center or a kind of centralized solution. It really all comes down to key management. So you can encrypt things and you can keep things as secure as possible, but you can't at the end of the day, you can't stop people from mismanaging keys. So that's true within Cortex as well. But that's this is based on the individual. and but because it is a wallet, it'll be as secure as other crypto wallets out there.
And we're built on standards to end-to-end encryption, right? So, any of the personal data, we as a company don't know it, don't store it anywhere. It's all end-to-end encryption.
Yeah, it's an important point. This data doesn't live with Cortex. It's not managed by Cortex. It's managed by the users in a very fundamental way, and maybe IPFS or wherever you're storing it. But
also,
it's up to you as the user.
Are you hearing Josh right now?
He's frozen.
Yeah.
All the tokens and everything are based. Can you hear
yeah,
he was.
Okay. Just heard tokens and everything. That's the last thing we did.
Yeah. So the tokens and everything are based on the open standards. So, basically, in order for,
I think it might be time to wrap up.
Yeah.
We're gonna. Josh may not be real. It seems to capture with the most complimentary faces.
Yeah. Should we wait until he comes back?
I know. It's weird. I can hear you guys still.
Yeah, we're still.
Yeah, you're breaking up. Well, let's wrap up since the interwebs are broken.
Yep.
But thanks. We got to do another one of these soon and keep building and keep talking about what we're doing, because the difficulty with Cortex and with Butterfly and with Ubase's data protocol is it really does go very deep. Thanks to Josh's brilliance in architecting all this and solving so many problems. So it takes a lot of time to talk about and dig deep into. So looking forward to doing more of that.
And we'll be doing a future one on the Bproto, one of these Bproto channels with some crypto noobs and stuff too, to help explain what Bproto is and how.
True.
So that'll be interesting, as we have some new people helping on that who don't know much about crypto. So they'll ask questions that we take the answers for granted for already. They're normal.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Sergio. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.